It works. Okay, so good evening everybody and welcome. And we're here for our third installment of hearing about how to work with anger. So I'm hoping and I'm wondering if you've been thinking about what we've talked about the last few evenings and tried to become more mindful of anger when it's arising in yourself, and to see the faults of anger, and then to start to counteract the anger. So it's very important to understand that I'm not saying we shouldn't get angry. Yeah, because whether we get angry or not, it's not a question of should. If the anger is there, it's there. The question is, what do we want to do if anger is there? Yeah, do you understand the difference I'm getting? I'm not saying you shouldn't get angry. You're a bad person if you get angry. I'm not saying that. Anger comes. Yeah. But then what are we going to do about it? Are we going to open our arms and say, anger, you're my best friend, come on in? Or are we going to say, anger, you're my enemy because you make all sorts of problems in my life? Okay, so that's the point I'm saying. It's our choice, it's our decision how we respond to the anger. And as we train our mind to see situations in different ways, then our perspective on life changes, and then that will affect whether anger arises quickly or slowly or often or infrequently. Okay? So last night we talked about blaming and fault, and rather than blame, find somebody to blame, that it's better if everybody in a situation accepts responsibility for their own part and then corrects that part, because it doesn't do much good to point the finger at somebody else and tell them they should change. Yeah, because we can't control other people. The only thing we can even attempt to manage is ourself. And so, rather than point at other people, say, how can I look at the situation differently so that I don't get so angry? So again, to review the question, we're not talking about exploding in anger, and we're not talking about repressing our anger. We're talking about learning to look at it in a different way so that eventually the anger doesn't arise at all. Okay? So, when we become Buddhas, even before that, it's possible to get to a point where anger doesn't arise in our mind. And wouldn't that be nice? And think about it for a minute. How would it be so that no matter what somebody said to you, no matter what they said about you, no matter what they did to you, your mind just doesn't have anger? Wouldn't that be nice? I think that would be so nice. People could call me names, they could discriminate, they could do who knows what. In my mind, internally, peaceful. Yeah. And then with that kind of peace internally, we can think about how to act externally to improve the situation. Okay, so doing something with the anger doesn't mean we just accept the situation and let somebody else do something harmful. We can still stand up and correct the situation, but without anger. Okay? So, last night we also talked about some antidotes to criticism. Remember, the nose and the horns? Yeah, so if people say it's true, we don't need to get angry, If what they say is true, we don't need to get angry. If what they say is not true, we also don't need to get angry. Okay, so today I thought to talk a little bit about grudges and resentment. So, resentment is a kind of anger that we hold on to over a long period of time. We really resent somebody. We don't like something. We're upset about something. And it kind of festers inside of us. And we hold on to the resentment for quite a long time. And grudges are similar to resentment in that when we hold a grudge, we're holding on to anger. And we often want revenge. Yeah, somebody hurt us, somebody did something we didn't like. We want to get them back. Okay, and we think that if we cause them suffering, that will do away with our own suffering for what they did to us. Does it? We've all taken revenge on people. Yeah? Does it alleviate your own suffering when you take revenge? When you cause somebody else pain, do you feel good afterwards? Well, maybe for a few minutes. Oh, I got them. Good, that me. But then when you go to bed at night, how do you feel about yourself? Yeah. Do you feel good? Oh, I'm the kind of person that rejoices at causing other people pain. Yeah, is that going to build your self-esteem? Is that going to make you feel good about yourself? I don't think so. None of us want to be the kind of person that rejoices in somebody else's pain. And seeing somebody else in pain doesn't really alleviate our own pain at all. I'll give you an example. I told you before that I do work with prison inmates, and last year, or the year before, I was working with one man who was on death row. Yeah. Does Indonesia have the death penalty? Yes? Okay, yeah, many states in the U.S. do too. I don't think it does any good at all in stopping crime. But in any case, this one man was on death row. There was his lawyer had a lot of doubt about whether he really committed the crime. He said he didn't, and when she looked at the situation, there were a lot of things that just didn't add up. And she explained those to me because I was his spiritual advisor. Anyway, she tried to, get clemency for him. They turned it down, and then they executed him. And the lawyer, this woman is quite incredible. She really has a heart of gold. And she came to the execution to offer support to the man that she had been defending. And she told me it was, I think, her 12th or maybe 13th execution that she had attended. And so often juries give the death sentence thinking that it will help the family. If somebody was murdered, then if the murderer were killed, then the family would feel that justice had been done, and the family would be able to heal and let go of their anger and their resentment about their relative being killed. But this lawyer told me that she's been at 12 or 13 executions, and not once has she seen the family feel better after the execution. Not once. Yeah. So this is a good example of, how we hurt somebody to get even, thinking that we'll feel better, and her experience is you don't feel better. And I think if we look in our own lives too, like I said, for the first minute or two, we might say, oh, good, I got even. But after a while, you know, how can we respect ourselves if we're a person who likes to cause others pain and rejoices at their suffering? Yeah? So, grudges don't really work. Vengeance doesn't really work. You know, sometimes we think, oh, if I hurt them, then they'll know how I feel. Now, have you ever heard yourself say that? I want to hurt them, so then they'll know how I feel. How is that going to help you? Yeah? How is hurting them going to help you? When they're in pain, and if you cause somebody pain and they're hurting, are they going to say, oh, now I understand how so-and-so feels? Or are they going to say, that stupid person, they just hurt me? Yeah. Think about it. Are they going to come around to your side after you inflict pain on them? Or are they going to be angrier and more upset and more distant? Okay, you getting what I'm saying? Okay, it's kind of like the U.S. government policy. You know, our national policy is, we balm you until you decide to do it our way and you decide you love us. I can talk about my own country that way, you know. But that national policy doesn't work at all. You know, we bombed Afghanistan, they don't like us. We bombed Iraq, they don't like us. It's not that you harm somebody and then they come around and say you're wonderful. Okay? So, you know, getting revenge doesn't really help the situation very much. But what about holding the grudge? Okay? Holding the grudge means we're angry inside. Somebody may have done something, you know, a few years ago, or maybe even 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and you're still angry about it? Okay? I come from a family that holds a lot of grudges, at least one part of my family. And it's very difficult when there's a family gathering, like where all the extended family comes, because this one doesn't speak to that one, and that one doesn't speak to this one, and this one doesn't talk to that one. And so you're trying to make a seating arrangement at a wedding, but it's so difficult because so many people don't talk to each other. Yeah. And I remember as a little kid being told not to talk to certain relatives, even though they were, you know, lived kind of nearby. I wasn't supposed to talk to them. And I was a kid, and I'm going, well, why not? And finally, they explained, because 2 generations ago, at my grandmother's generation, you know, some of the brothers and sisters of my grandmother's generation had quarreled about something, I don't even know what, but because of that, I wasn't supposed to talk to these people. And I remember as a kid thinking, adults are so stupid. You know? Why do they hold on to things like this for so long? It's so stupid. You know? But it's interesting because you see this happens on a family level, on a group level, on a national level. You remember when Yugoslavia disintegrated and became several little republics, and they started killing each other, the Serbs and the Macedonians and so on. Why were they harming each other? It was because of things that had happened 300 years ago. You know, when none of the people were alive, now. None of the people who are fighting now were alive. But because of things that happened between their ancestors hundreds of years ago, they grew up thinking that they have to hate certain other groups. That's pretty stupid, isn't it? I think it's just foolishness. Why hate somebody because of what one ancestor did to another ancestor when you and the other person in front of you weren't even alive? I tell you, adults, sometimes we're just foolish. It doesn't make any sense to do that. Yeah, but we see in one country after another country how people, groups within a country or between two countries, how they hold grudges, and how parents teach their children to hate. Yeah. And think about it, whether it's within your family or whatever kind of group, do you want to teach your children to hate? Is that the legacy you want to pass on? I don't think so. Who wants to teach their kids to hate? Either hate a relative or hate somebody from a different ethnic group or a different racial group, a different religious group. Why teach your kids to hate? Doesn't make any sense. Okay? So the thing is, when we hold on to a grudge, who's the person that's in pain? Let's say something happened between you and, your brother or your sister 20 years ago. Yeah. And you took a vow after that happened, I am never going to speak to my brother again. Okay. All the other vows, when we take the 5 precepts to the Buddha, we renegotiate those. You take marriage vows, you renegotiate those. But when we vow, I am never going to speak to that person again, we keep that vow impeccably. Never break it. Yeah? In my family, it happened that on one of the generations, my parents' generation, some of the brothers and sisters quarreled over I don't even know what. They hadn't spoken to each other for I don't know how many years. And one of them was dying, and so their kids called my generation and said, if your parents want to talk to their brother, they should call now because he's dying. And you'd think when somebody's on their deathbed that you would at least call and forgive them. No. I think that's so sad. That's so sad. Yeah? Who wants to die hating somebody? And who wants to watch somebody you once loved die with your hating them? For what purpose? Yeah? So the whole idea of grudges, when we hold on to anger for a long time, the person who is primarily hurt by it is us, isn't it? Yeah. If I can't stand somebody and I hate and resent them, they may be off on a vacation, enjoying themselves, going to the movies, dancing, but I'm sitting there, they did this to me, they did that to me, how can they do this? Oh, I'm so bad. And maybe what they did to us, they did one time, but every time we remember it, every time we imagine the situation in our mind, we do it to ourselves again and again and again. So all this anger and pain is often just our own creation. Yeah. The other person did it once. They forgot about it. We are stuck in the past. Yeah. And it's so painful to be stuck in the past because the past is over. Yeah. And why hold on to something in the past when we have the choice to create a good relationship with somebody now? Because I think what we really want in the bottom of our hearts is to connect with other people and to give love and to be love. So I often tell people, if you want to cause yourself pain, holding a grudge is the best way to do it. But who wants to cause ourselves pain? None of us do. Okay? So releasing the grudge means releasing the anger, releasing the bad feelings. Okay? And that is my definition of forgiving. Yeah, forgiving means I've decided that I'm tired of being angry and hateful. I'm tired of holding on to pain that happened in the past. Okay? So when I forgive somebody, it does not mean that I say what they did was okay. Somebody may have done something that was not at all okay. But that doesn't mean I have to be angry at them forever. And it doesn't mean I have to say what they did was okay. So we look, for example, at the Holocaust that happened in Europe during World War II. We can forgive the Nazis, but we're not going to say what they did was okay. It was not okay. It was abominable. Okay? And while some people say forgive and forget, some things we should not forget. We don't want to forget the Holocaust, because if we forget it, in our stupidity, we may do something similar again. Okay? So it's not forgive and forget. It's forgive and get smarter. Yeah. Stop holding on to the anger, but also readjust your expectations of the other person. So, for example, if somebody did something very nasty to you, you may decide, that you're tired of being angry, but you're also going to realize, maybe I'm not going to trust this other person as much as before because they aren't so trustworthy. Maybe I got hurt because I gave them more trust than they could bear. That doesn't mean it's our fault. The other person still may have done something that is completely unacceptable. But we have to adjust how much we trust them over different issues. And in some areas we may trust somebody a lot, but in other areas we may not trust them so much because we see that they're kind of weak in those areas. Okay? So we can stop being angry, but we learn something from the situation, and then we avoid getting into that kind of situation again with that same person. Okay? So, for example, if a family member beats you, let's take a case of domestic violence and the man is beating the woman. Does the woman just say, "Oh, I forgive you, dear. I have so much compassion. You can stay at home. You beat me last night, but I forgive you. You can beat me again tonight." Yeah, that's not forgiveness. That's stupidity. Yeah, if he's beating you, you get out of there. And you don't go back. Yeah, because you see that he's not trustworthy in that area. Yeah, but you don't have to hate him forever either. Okay? So it's these kinds of things of, a way of learning from situations. Sometimes when I talk about forgiveness, because people I think really do want to forgive, sometimes people say to me, well, I want to forgive, but it's really hard. Yeah, because the other person hasn't accepted any of their responsibility for what they've done to me. They hurt me so much, and they are completely in denial about how much they hurt me. Yeah. So when we're feeling like that, it may be true, they may be in denial. Yeah. But we're sitting there holding on to our hurt and saying, I can't forgive them until they apologize to me. First they apologize, then I'll forgive. And in our mind, we have constructed the scene of the apology. And there's the other person down back there, groveling on the floor, on his hands and knees, saying, I am so sorry. I caused you so much pain. You were in such torment. Please forgive me for what I did. I feel so terrible. And then we imagine we'll sit there and say, well, I'll think about it. So we imagine this kind of scene, don't we, where they apologize. Now finally we're just going to, well, it's about time you realized what you did, you scum of the earth. So we have the whole scene imagined. Does that ever happen? No. That doesn't happen. So if we make our forgiving conditional on the other person's apologizing, we're giving up our own power. We're making it depend on them apologizing, and we can't control them. So we just have to forget about their apologizing, because their apologizing is actually their business. Our forgiving is our business. Yeah. If we can forgive them and release our anger, then our own heart is peaceful, whether they've apologized or not. And wouldn't you opt to have a peaceful heart if you could? We would, wouldn't we? And who knows if the other person will ever apologize. I've had situations happen, things happen years ago where, I've tried to kind of make overtures to reestablish at least a friendly relationship. The other person, no response. What to do? What to do? Just leave them alone. I've also had other situations where people have gotten very angry at me, and I've, released any bad feeling I had about them and kind of forgotten about the situation. And then years later, they write me a letter and they say, I'm really sorry about what happened between us. And I'm always like, oh, that's funny that they're apologizing. I forgot about it a long time ago. But I rejoice that they're able to apologize, because when they apologize, they feel better. Yeah? In the same way, when we apologize to other people, we feel better. But our apologies have to be sincere. Sometimes we just say sorry, kind of to manipulate the other person and get what we want, but we're not really sorry. So don't make those kind of apologies, because pretty soon that other person's not going to trust you. Yeah, if you keep saying you're sorry and then you keep doing it again, after a while that person's going to go, this person's not very reliable. Okay, so it's better to make a sincere apology and follow through with it. Yeah. Apologies just with the mouth don't mean much. And other people can tell when our apology is sincere, and they can tell when we're just saying it to manipulate. Okay? So, forgiving somebody is actually a gift we give to ourselves. Our forgiveness doesn't matter to the other, isn't so important for the other person, because each of us has to make peace with the situation in our own minds. So just as, I'm not going to wait for somebody else to apologize to forgive them. Yeah. They don't have to wait for me to forgive them to apologize, or I don't have to wait. Well, you get what I mean. Yeah? Okay? So apologizing is something we do for ourselves when we apologize to somebody that we harmed. And forgiving is something we do for ourselves when we apologize to somebody who has harmed us. Our forgiving and our apology often helps the other person. I want to talk a little bit about when trust is betrayed. I already kind of did, yeah. But when we've trusted somebody in a certain area, and then that person has acted in the exact opposite way, then our trust is destroyed, and it sometimes is very, very painful when our trust is destroyed, when somebody's done something that's destroyed trust. But let's flip it. Have any of you ever done something that's destroyed other people's trust in you? Who, me? Oh, I don't do that. I don't hurt anybody else's feelings, but they betray my trust. And nobody's ever felt the kind of pain I experienced because I trusted this person with my whole life, and they just did the opposite. Right? We're sweet. We never hurt other people's feelings or betrayed their trust. Yeah. But we feel like they do a lot of it. So it's quite interesting, There's all these people who have had their trust betrayed, but I can't meet many people who have done the betraying of trust. So how does this happen? It's like many people catch a ball, but nobody throws it. I have a friend who teaches conflict mediation, and often when he's teaching conflict mediation, he'll talk to people and he'll say, how many of you are ready to reconcile? And everybody in the class raises their hand. I want to reconcile, and I didn't intend for this situation to happen at all. And then he says, well, why isn't there reconciliation? And all these people say, well, because the other person is doing this and this and this and this and this. And then he comments and he says, oh, it's so interesting. All the people who come to my conflict mediation courses are the people who are so agreeable, so kind, who want to reconcile. But all the mean, nasty people who are unreliable never come to my course. Are you getting what I'm saying? Okay. So I think it's very helpful for us to look inside at when we've betrayed other people's trust and apologize if we need to, when we're ready to. Yeah, it'll help us, it'll help the other person. And similarly, when our trust has been betrayed, we, instead of waiting for the other person to apologize, let's try and forgive. And like I said before, then adjust how much trust we can give to the other person, learning something about them from the present situation. And so that really makes us step back and think, how do we create trust in relationships? Because trust is really important, isn't it? Trust is the foundation of a family. Trust is the foundation of people living together in society. Trust is the foundation of national cohesion. Yeah? So it makes us think, how can I become a more trustworthy person? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Have you ever actively thought about that? How can I be a more trustworthy person? And how can I let other people know that I am trustworthy? And how can I bear the trust that they've given me and not betray it? Because when others betray our trust, that's karma coming around. Remember we talked last night? We give certain energy out in the universe, it boomerangs towards us. When we're untrustworthy, our feelings get hurt because other people betray our trust. So the question then becomes, how can we be more trustworthy ourselves? Yeah. So the question is not how can I control other people better and make them do what I want them to do. That's not the question. Because we can't control other people and make them do what we want them to do. The question is, how can I be more trustworthy so that I don't create the karma to have my trust betrayed and to experience the pain of that? Yeah. And how can I, out of care and compassion for others, be more trustworthy so that others don't experience pain because of my bad actions and my selfishness? Because so often when we betray other people's trust, we're basically doing something, where there's been a spoken or unspoken agreement between us not to do something, and then we've done it, and without any care about the effect of our actions on other people. So that's self-centeredness, isn't it? It's mostly, selfish action. So to own that and to figure out how to improve so that we don't do that again. So these topics that we're talking about now, they may be stirring up a lot in you and make you think of things that happened in the past. But this is good because hopefully if you think about these things with clarity and with kindness and with compassion, you'll be able to reach some internal resolution about them and not carry these things around for years and decades and so on. Okay? So if something gets stirred up, that doesn't mean it's bad. See it as an opportunity to really work out some things so that you can have a more peaceful heart and live with other people in a more peaceful way. And then we all do confession, don't we? And repentance ceremonies. Do you have times where you do like repentance ceremonies at the temple here? Certain times? Yeah? Where people do a lot of bowing and a lot of reflection to purify negative karma. So thinking about these kinds of issues that we've been talking about tonight is very helpful to do before those repentance ceremonies, because that makes our repentance much more sincere. Okay? And you don't have to wait until just before a repentance ceremony to clean up these things. It's better, to clean up these messy emotional things in your heart right now, and then do your own confession, your own repentance in your meditation. Yeah? And then that helps to really clear these things out. It's very effective. In Tibetan Buddhism, we do purification and confession practices every day. Yeah, the reason being that we create negative karma every day. Yeah, so we do these practices on a daily basis in order to keep on top of what's happened recently and in order to clean up things that have happened in the past. Then, another topic is envy and jealousy. Oh, I see, I've pushed some buttons already. Yeah. So there can be a lot of anger when we envy other people, when we're jealous of other people. Yeah. We always say, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. But not this person I'm jealous of. May this person have suffering and its causes, and may they never have happiness and its causes. Okay, so here we are back at revenge again. Yeah? That isn't helpful at all, is it? And jealousy is so painful. I think jealousy is one of the most painful things. Do you? When you're jealous of someone, it's just awful. Yeah? Because our mind is never at peace. The other person's happy, and we hate them for being happy. And that's so contradictory to the kind of good heart that we're trying to develop in our spiritual practice. Yeah. And depriving somebody else of their happiness because we're jealous of them, that also doesn't make us happy. Well, you might be happy for a few minutes, but in the long run, not. But people say to me, but somebody else is with my husband now, somebody else is with my wife. I'm jealous. I'm mad at my husband or mad at my wife, and I'm jealous of the other person who they're with, and I want them both to have suffering. That's a pretty painful state of mind, isn't it? Yeah. And what that state of mind is saying is that person is only allowed, my spouse is only allowed to have happiness when I'm the cause of it. Otherwise, they aren't allowed to be happy. Yeah. I love you, which means I want you to be happy. But only if I'm the cause of it. Otherwise, I don't love you anymore. Yeah. And you know, jealousy can also happen in Dharma centers. Sometimes we're jealous of the people who are closer to the teacher. Yeah. Oh, the teacher rode around in my car. Did he ride in your car? Oh, too bad. You know, trying to make the other person really jealous of us. Yeah. Or we're really jealous because the teacher rode around in their car instead of our car. You know, it's so silly, isn't it? Yeah. At the time it's happening, it seems like it's so big and so important. But when you look back on it later, it seems so trivial. Yeah. So silly. What matter is it? Whose car somebody rode in. Does that make us a good person because somebody rode in our car? Does it make us a bad person because they didn't ride in our car? Who cares? Who cares? Okay? So, you know, similarly, with jealousy, it's very painful. It's based on anger. And we want to release it if we're going to be happy. Yeah. And so the antidote to jealousy is to rejoice in the other person's happiness. And you're going to say, that is impossible. How can I rejoice in the happiness of my spouse when they're with another person? How is that possible? I can't rejoice. But think about it. You know, maybe you can. Like I told the people during the retreat today, yeah, if your husband goes off with somebody else, then she gets to wash his dirty socks. You know, you're not really losing anything. You don't need to be jealous. Okay? It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Okay? But, you know, let's wish other people well and heal ourselves and go on in our own life. Because if we hold on to this jealousy and this resentment for years, then we're the one who suffers. We're the one who's in pain. And it's also, you know, in the context of a marriage, it's also very bad for the children, you know, if one parent holds a lot of resentment against the other parent. Yeah. Of course, if you're the parent who was unreliable, yeah, you got to think about your actions and not only how they affect your spouse, but how they affect your kids. Yeah, because kids are sensitive to this kind of thing, you know. I've met a number of people who come and tell me, you know, when I was growing up, my dad was having one affair after another. You know, and of course, Dad thought the kids had no idea that he was cheating on Mom. The kids knew it. What does that do for the respect your children have for you if they know that you're cheating? Yeah, how's that going to affect your children's relationship with you? So it's not just a matter of hurting your spouse by cheating. Yeah, it's a matter really of hurting the children. And I think most parents love their kids and don't want to hurt their kids. So it's something to really think about, you know, and not be so impulsive, not run after, you know, instant pleasure that comes from having a new partner. Because in the long term, you know, so often it doesn't work. And then you're left with, you know, one spouse who's hurt your boyfriend or girlfriend who's hurt, and your kids who are hurt. All because of seeking one's own selfish gratification. So it's really important, I think, to think beforehand. And to really think about the effects of our actions on other people. Okay? But when we're jealous, release it, move on in your life. Don't stay hooked on to the jealousy, because it's just very painful. And we have a life to live. We have a lot of inner goodness, so there's no sense staying stuck in the past about something that happened. Okay, then I want to talk about anger at ourselves. Because some people, I think many of us get very angry at ourselves. Who gets angry at themselves? Okay, there's only 10 of us. The rest of you never get mad at yourself? Sometimes, huh? What I find is really interesting, and what one of my observations is in Dharma practice, one of the things that impedes people's meditation and impedes their Dharma practice the most is self-loathing and self-criticism. And I think many, many people suffer from self-criticism, self-denigration, shame, feeling bad about themselves. And often it comes from things that happened in childhood. Maybe, things adults said to us when we were little kids, when we didn't have the ability to discern whether what they said was true or false, so we just believed it, when we were little kids. And as a result, then we have a lot of self-esteem issues now, or we feel that, somehow we're incompetent, or we're defective, or we do everything wrong, and we can, when you get really focused in your meditation, when you do retreat, you can begin to notice how much inner dialogue we have that is self-critical. Any of you notice that at all? No? You notice that every time you do something that doesn't meet with your own standards, instead of forgiving yourself, you go, oh, well, I'm so stupid I did that. Or leave it to me, I'm such a jerk, I can't do anything right. And there's a lot of this kind of self-talk that goes on. We don't say it out loud in words, but we think it. Oh, I'm insufficient. I'm not as good as everybody else. I can't do anything right. Nobody loves me. We have a lot of those kinds of thoughts going on in our mind. So I think it's very important to recognize them and then ask ourselves, are they true? When we get in this state of mind that says nobody loves me, ask ourselves, is it true that nobody loves me? I don't think that's true about anybody. I think every single person has many people who love them. Often we cannot see other people's love. We don't let their love in. Often we want them to express their love one way, but they express it in another way. But that doesn't mean nobody loves us, and it doesn't mean we're unlovable. if we really stop and look, there's many people who care about us. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and let go of that incorrect thought that says nobody cares about me, because it's just not true. Similarly, when we make a mistake and we beat up on ourselves, I'm so terrible. How could I have done that? I always mess up every situation. It's always me who makes a mistake. You know, I can't do anything right. So when you hear yourself thinking like that, to ask yourself, is that true? I can't do anything right. Really? You can't do anything right? Yeah, I'm sure you can boil water. I'm sure you can brush your teeth. I'm sure you can do some things well at your job. Everybody has some skills. Everybody has some talents. Saying I can't do anything right is totally unrealistic, and it's not at all true. So when we see that we're having a lot of self-blame and self-hatred, it's really important to notice that and really stop and say, is that true? And when we really look and examine, we see it's not true at all. We all have talents, we all have abilities, we all have people who love us. We can all do some things very well. And so let's accept our good qualities. And let's notice what's going well in our life and give ourselves credit for that. Yeah, because when we do that, then we have a lot more confidence. And when we have confidence, then our actions tend to be much kinder and more compassionate and more tolerant. Okay? Okay. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was about love and compassion and what they mean and how to develop them. So love simply means wishing somebody to have happiness and its causes. Yeah. And the optimum kind of love is when there's no conditions attached. We want somebody to be happy simply because they exist. Very often, our love has conditions. I love you as long as you're nice to me, as long as you praise me, as long as you agree with my ideas, as long as you stand with me when somebody else criticizes me, as long as you give me gifts, as long as you tell me I'm smart and intelligent and good looking. When you do all those things, I love you so much. Okay. But that's not really love, that's attachment, because as soon as the person doesn't do those things, we stop loving them. Okay? So we really want to discern the difference between love on one hand and attachment on the other hand. And as much as we can, release the attachment, because the attachment is based on exaggerating someone's good qualities. The attachment comes along with all sorts of unrealistic expectations of other people. Yeah, and then when those expectations aren't fulfilled, we feel disappointed and betrayed. Whereas when we can really train our mind to love somebody and want them to be happy because they exist, then we become much more accepting and we're not so sensitive to how they treat us. Okay. So in your meditation, it's very helpful, to start with a person that you respect, not a person you're attached to, that you're real close to, yeah, but a person that you respect, and think, may that person be well and happy. May their virtuous aspirations be fulfilled. May they have good health. May their projects be successful. May they develop all of their talents and abilities. So you start, with somebody who you respect, and you think those kinds of thoughts, what I just said, and imagine that person being happy in that way. And it feels really nice. Okay. Then go to a stranger, somebody that you don't know, and think how wonderful it would be if they were happy, if all their virtuous aspirations were fulfilled, if they had good health and happiness and good relationships. And you can add to this all the other things that, you wish. And they don't have to be just things for this life. May that person attain liberation. May they have a good rebirth. May they quickly become a fully enlightened Buddha. Okay. And so you think that for strangers. Yeah. And really let your heart develop that kind of love for them. Then you go to people you're attached to. People you're very close to, maybe family members or very close friends. And you wish them well in that same way, but not with attachment. Pull back the mind of attachment and just wish that person well, no matter what they do in life or who they're with or whatever. And then after you've done the person you respect, you've done a stranger, you've done somebody that you're attached to, then you go to a person that you don't like, who you feel threatened by, who's hurt you, who you don't trust, and wish that person well. Extend some loving kindness to that person. And at first the mind says, but they're so awful. Yeah. But think about it. That person is not inherently awful. They're not an inherently bad person. They've just done certain actions that you don't like. But somebody doing actions that you don't like doesn't mean they're a bad person. We have to differentiate the action and the person. Okay? And then think, that person who you don't like, who you don't trust, who hurt you, why did they do that? Yeah, it's not because they're happy, it's because they're miserable. Now, why did that person mistreat you? It wasn't that they woke up in the morning and said, oh, what a beautiful day out. There's fresh air. I feel so happy. I feel so fulfilled in my life. I'm going to go hurt somebody's feelings. Yeah. Nobody hurts somebody else's feelings when they're happy. Yeah. Why do we do things that hurt others? It's because we're suffering. We're miserable. And we mistakenly think that doing whatever it is we did that hurts the other person will make us happy. So in the same way, when other people have hurt us, it's not, that they intentionally do it. It's because they're unhappy and they're miserable. And if we wish them to have happiness, it's the same as wishing them to be free of the causes that made them do what harmed us. Because if we wish them happiness, if they were happy, they would be a completely different person and they wouldn't be doing the kind of things that we find distressing. Yeah. So actually we need to wish our enemies well. Okay, so you meditate in that way. Person you respect, stranger, one you're attached to, enemy, Then you also extend some love to yourself, not self-indulgence, but love. May I too be well and happy. May my virtuous aspirations be successful. May I have a good rebirth, attain liberation and full awakening. Yeah. So you extend some loving kindness to yourself. We're all valuable people. We deserve to be happy. We need to be able to extend some loving kindness to ourselves. And then from there, we spread it out to all living beings. Okay? First human beings, then we could add animals and insects and all sorts of other living beings. Okay? But it's a very powerful meditation. And if you make it a habit to do this meditation on a regular basis, like every day, even if you do it just a short time every day, your mind will definitely change. Definitely. Okay? And you'll be much more peaceful, much happier. And of course your relationships with other people will be better. And you'll create much more good karma, much less negative karma, which means you'll have more happiness in future lives. And your spiritual goals will be successful. So it's very valuable to do this meditation on loving kindness often. Okay? So, I think if there's a few questions, we can talk about them until my voice goes.
We make a applause first, eh? Oke, seperti yang sudah saya sampaikan, kita malam ini cuma hanya ada 3 pertanyaan aja, karena nanti ada penutupan untuk pemberian kenang-kenangan kepada Venerable. Jadi untuk paginya saya pikir 2 di dalam, 1 di luar ya. Oke, 2 dari dalam, kiri dan kanan. Ya, sudah dapat? Yang di luar? Yang di luar, saya kasih kesempatan, ada 1. Silakan masuk ke dalam kalau ada. Kalau tidak ada, Oke, saya kasih yang wanita dalam. Oke, sudah dapat.
Good evening, Venerable. I have one question. Every day, daily life, we are working life, working woman, and every day we got more job, stress, depression, more target to go. Sometimes your boss yelling at you, sometimes your friend doesn't like you, and sometimes and every day you meet the person who needs you a lot, and sometimes, especially maybe a woman, that person like say to dirty talk, like F word, like which or something less. And I'm questioning about how to be peaceful in our mind, in our daily work. That's the question. Because I have experience with the lot of cloud on your mind, or cannot solve any problem if you mind get stressed or get mad. It's okay, that's it. Thank you.
Pertanyaannya intinya Anda semua alami ya.
So everybody feels the same problems actually ya. Jadi intinya adalah bagaimana kita menghadapi orang-orang yang menyebalkan dalam kehidupan kita ya, laki perempuan maupun tidak jelas kan. Ya semua bos, ya kerja, dan bagaimana kita bisa mengatasi ini semua ketika pikiran kita itu sebenarnya dalam keadaan yang tidak tenang.
So the question is, how do we get everybody to do what we want them to do? Are you sure that's not the question? Are you sure? Okay. Why do we meet so many obnoxious people? Who created the cause for us to meet obnoxious people? Okay. So this is what I've talked about the last few nights. You know, this is our own karmic creation. So the solution is we need to change and start creating different karma. People harming us is not only due to our own karma, it's also due to how we interpret other people's actions. And when we are in a bad mood, we meet so many rude, obnoxious people, don't we? When we're in a good mood, somehow they all evaporate. Even if they give us some feedback about a mistake we made, we don't see it as criticism. But when we're in a bad mood and when we're suspicious, even somebody says good morning, we take offense. Oh, they said good morning to me, they want to manipulate me. So this is all coming back to our own mental state. Who creates the karma? Who, you know, is looking at what, picking out the sense data and interpreting it in certain ways? This is all coming back to our own mind. He doesn't like me anymore.
He will. And next question, I think. Next question.
Aku ingin bertanya. Bagaimana cara saya menghadapi teman saya yang selalu membenci saya? Saya bersikap baik, saya ramah pada dia, saya menyapa dia. Dia menganggap saya mengejeknya. Lalu saya diam, dia menganggap saya meremehkannya. Sampai bos saya bingung, kalian berdua ini ada apa? Saya bilang tanyakan padanya. Lalu dia bilang, bos saya tanya padanya, kenapa kamu membencinya? Dia bilang, ketenangan saya, terus sikap tenang, sikap sopan saya sama dia, itu membuat dia gak nyaman. Semakin dia membenci saya. Lalu saya bilang, dengan segala kerendahan hati saya minta maaf kalau saya ada ucapan atau perilaku saya nggak benar. Dia bilang, maaf tidak bisa mengatasi masalah. Maaf juga tidak bisa membuat saya tenang. Lalu saya bilang, apa yang harus saya lakukan? Kamu pergi dari hadapan saya, dari perusahaan ini, karena saya tidak suka melihat kamu. Lalu pimpinan saya bilang, saya tidak mau kehilangan tangan saya. Kalian berdua seperti tangan dan kiri, tangan kanan dan tangan kiri saya. Lalu saya bingung, apa yang harus saya lakukan dengan kondisi ini? Terima kasih. Cewek. Terima kasih.
Karena bahasa Inggris laki-laki perempuan ini lain gitu. Jadi saya basically yes.
Kita lihat kepiawaian Momi.
So the words get him, so
Susah juga ya dia. Ini masalah kantor nih. Mohon tenang ya.
I'm confused. And so she tries to be nice to the workmate, but the workmate still hates her and wants her to quit, but the boss doesn't want either of them to quit.
Sabar ya.
Okay. Huh. This is the same question he's asking. How can we make somebody else do what we want them to do? It's the same question. Yeah. You just be kind. Just be kind. Don't. If that person throws out spiteful, hateful words, you know, it's like a fisherman casting a line. You don't have to bite the hook.
Sorry for not to interrupt. Actually, she's been very kind.
Yeah.
She's been practicing all the kindness,
Yeah.
but
She still wants that person to change, and he's just not changing. It's the same question. See, I told you.
so she asked, "How can I make that person start hating me?"
You can't.
That means nggak bisa. But the condition in the office is getting worse. So
Yeah. Okay, you cannot stop. You cannot make that person stop hating you. Yeah. If the condition in the office is something that you find really distasteful, then, you know, you go to your manager and your boss, and you explain the situation. Ask your boss to help you. If your boss can't help you and the situation is still driving you crazy, then look for another job. And if you don't want to look for another job, then just bear the difficulty of being there.
Actually, she went to her boss and tell the situation, but her boss
Doesn't want to. Then, I mean, how am I supposed to solve your problem? I can't solve your problem. Either you bear the situation or you change it. That's it.
She wanted to quit,
Yeah.
but her boss disagreed.
That doesn't matter. If you want to quit, quit.
Oke. Kalau mau
Berhenti aja. Maksudnya gitu intinya ya.
Ya,
you
kita
don't.
apa sekarang?
Ini terkadang jawab pertanyaan mungkin tidak sesuai dengan harapan kamu ya. Jawabannya.
Ya mungkin
You don't need your boss's permission to quit, and you don't need my permission to quit. You can just do it.
Oke, next question I think ya. Tahan dulu nggak apa-apa, masih banyak latihan di Ekayana Body Center yang bisa membuat kita lebih baik ya. Itu kuncinya. Jadi memang ada perbedaan budaya di sini. Dia budaya Amerika, kita budaya Indonesia ya. Jadi kita coba berdamai dengan diri kita. Baik, pertanyaan ketiga. Sudah di sini ya. The third question and the last will be the last question. Maaf.
Selain kita doakan supaya penyebab yang membuat orang menyakiti kita itu hilang. Apa sikap yang bijaksana yang harus dilakukan kalau orang ini kerap melakukan hal-hal yang menyakitkan itu pada saat mereka itu dekat dengan kita? Apakah bijaksana untuk kita menjauh dari orang itu atau tetap berada di dekat mereka?
That depends on you, what you want to do. If you don't feel comfortable being around the person, keep some distance.
Excuse me?
Tapi misalnya orang dekat, kayak misalnya itu ayah kita atau adik kita atau ibu kita atau nenek kita, apa yang harus dilakukan?
This is her question, which is his question. It's the same question. Yeah? Isn't it? It's the same question. How can we make other people different? No one is asking me, how can I change my own mind? That's the question you need to ask, is how can I change my own mind? Okay.
Pertanyaannya sih mirip-mirip juga sebenarnya dengan membahas tapi nggak apa-apa, biarkan aja Mami. Saya pikir ya seperti tadi saya bilang, kita banyak belajar juga ya, jangan takut juga kok. EBC masih ada program-program untuk meredam kemarahan.
I'm not being direct and frank like this in order to be mean, believe me. You know, I just know from working with my own mind how sneaky our self-centered thought is. You know? And the real question always is, how do I work with my own mind? You know? And that, how do I make peace in my own mind? It's always, you know, what it comes down to. So, and that's what is empowering to us, because we can change our own mind. Other people's behavior we can influence, but we can't change.
Baiklah, kita cut sebentar. Terima kasih, tibalah acaranya pemberian cenderamata. Untuk itu umat kami persilakan berdiri karena anggota sangha akan masuk bakti salah. Mewakili dari Yayasan Pria Kemarahan. Inilah cenderamata yang kita sampaikan kepada saudara. Ya. Setelah itu foto bersama. Thank you, Venerable. Anggota sangha berkenan untuk meninggalkan bakti salah. Mohon untuk